Hi everyone, Letty here. Today I'm going to share with you the Not Too Shabby Shop paper pad subscription of the month. We are going to smash the second half of this pad. So let's smash a pad. So welcome back everyone. I'm on the design team for the Not Too Shabby Shop for this term. I'm going to list their website link and a discount code down in the description box below. Here is their logo. So I'm featuring the January 2023 paper pad subscription. I've already smashed half of the Elephant Love pad. In my previous video, I made a sheet load of cards using the January sheet load. I made 24 of these mini slimline cards. I'll link that video at the end of this one in case you haven't seen it. Here is what remains of my paper pad subscription. I've got half of a paper pad of the Elephant Love pad, which is 8 sheets of regular double-sided paper. This is cardstock paper, and then 4 sheets of ephemera cutouts. And it's also double-sided, but I'm going to be using it for the ephemera. And then I've got one backing that I'm probably just going to die cut some stitch circles with for my sentiments. So here's what I have left, 12 sheets. I'm going to be doing a project to finish smashing the rest of that pad today. Let me show you what's coming up in my next video though. So Purrfectly Snuggly, that's what the paper pad is, the second paper pad of the month for this subscription. So each month you get 2 paper pads. These are the 2 that came. What I'm going to do is in about a week, I'm going to go ahead and smash this second paper pad from start to finish. So again, this is the paper pad subscription from the Not Too Shabby Shop. So I've already went ahead and cut all of these little ephemera pieces. I just fussy cut them out, leaving a very small border. I've also die cut out some stitch circles from the backing, and I will use those last little bit of scraps in today's project. I have no more papers left. Here's a sketch that I pulled out from Paper Play Sketches. It's number 1, and you basically have a mat and 3 little squares, and then you've got a circle element. But today what I'm going to do, instead of a circle, I'm going to be layering some ephemera, and I'll add a sentiment on the card as well. So I pulled out 8 A2 size card bases. I've got 24 little square mats that are 2 1/4 by 2 1/4. I've got 8 stamped sentiments. This might look familiar. I had pulled it out last time. I had already stamped some images and some sentiments from this Avery Elle Elephantastic stamp set. So I'm just going to go ahead and use the larger of the sentiments on today's project. I've got 8 of them. I've got 2 by 2 squares of the paper, the pattern paper. Technically, I'll have 24 total. Then we'll have 8 of the mats that are 4 by 5 1/4 and 8 little scraps that are 4 by 3/4 of an inch. That's what those look like. And then let's go ahead and just cut this final sheet together on camera. So I've taken out my paper trimmer, and what we're going to do is we're going to take this last sheet of cardstock or paper, and we're going to go ahead and cut it upright with the top at the top, and we're going to cut it at 4 inches. This is just a typical A2 size cut. And then we're going to go ahead and trim off the little bitty edge. So we're going to cut it at 5 1/4. So you'll have a 5 1/4 by 4 inch mat, and then a little bitty strip that we will be using for the inside of our card. So that's your first cuts. And then the next thing you do is take that 2 inch strip and cut it down to 2 inches. So I cut it at 4, and then I cut it again at 2, just to get 3 sections of 2 by 2 paper. So you've probably seen this. This looks exactly like a previous, like, Not Too Shabby sketch. But here's the layout that we're using for today. So I've got my A2 size mat on my card base. The little strip is going to go on the inside of the card. Okay, and then what I'll do is I'll layer up the mats, the cardstock mats, and the paper sort of at a little bit of an angle. And instead of putting a circle, I'm going to go ahead and just add my sentiment at the bottom and then layer some ephemera, and that's basically what my card will look like. So here's what it looks like with that little sketch. I'm going to sort all of these off camera. I'll be right back. So I've already made 7 of the cards off camera. I've figured out what clusters I want of the ephemera, and I've already kind of mapped all of my papers. Before I do a recap, we're going to make one together. So I've got my ephemera pieces. I've got a little scrap paper. I've got my mats, my squares, my sentiment, my strip. Let's go ahead and assemble this card. So I got my card base. I'm going to first glue my little scrap strip right on the inside. Then I'm going to take my mat, my large mat, and I'm going to go ahead and add it to the front of my card. And I already have double-sided adhesive on all of these pieces to make things just a little bit quicker. I'm going to add my sentiment at the bottom of my card. Now, you could easily just put a piece of ephemera and call it a day. I think that looks super cute, but we're going to finish out kind of mimicking that sketch. So I'm going to go ahead and mat all of my 2 inch squares that I cut from the paper onto this 2 1/4 by 2 1/4 cardstock. So then the next step I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and take out my Barely Art wet glue. I'm going to add some glue to the squares and basically just layer them sort of at an angle starting from the bottom and working my way to the top. So you don't really have to use a 2-inch square on this. I just wanted to use up the entire paper and not be left with just a ton of little bitty scraps. So even though the sketch might not call for a full 2x2, I am going to go ahead and just layer them right behind. And because I'm not using that full circle, I feel that it'll help anchor everything under that ephemera. So I'm going to add in that little scrap right in that corner, and then I'm going to add my final one. I had accidentally almost glued down my final one without my little scrap, and that white scrap is from the backing of my paper pad. So I've got all 3 of my squares there, and they don't have to be perfect. I just kind of angled them in a little kind of corner or a diagonal, and then I'm going to add all of my ephemera pieces that I fussy cut out of the paper pad. And so what I did with the ephemera was each sheet of ephemera came with 6 pieces of ephemera, and so I figured I was going to be making 2 cards from 1 sheet. So I thought it was perfect because there were 2 elephants and then 4 additional pieces. So each of my cards is going to get 1 elephant image plus 2 additional floral images as well. So that's kind of how I did it. And there's another piece of that scrap from, again, from the backing of the paper pad. So that's how I was able to use all of that backing as well, just by using the scraps, and then I die cut those circles. So here is our finished card. It's really relatively flat. This will mail really well because it's not very dimensional at all. You could add some additional sequins. I'm going to leave it pretty plain today. And here's what the side-by-side comparison is going to look like with that sketch. So again, I made 8 A2 size cards from 12 sheets of the paper from that Elephant Love paper pad from the Not Too Shabby paper pad subscription for this month. Here's what they look like. Super cute. And then, as you remember, in my first video, I made 24 mini slimline cards from the first 12 sheets. So 32 total cards from this paper pad. Again, I'll link the website link and a discount code down in the description box below for the Not Too Shabby shop. This was the Elephant Love 6x6 paper pad, and it is now smashed. Make sure you check out my video next week. I will be smashing the second paper pad, which is Purrfectly Snuggly. Thanks for watching, everybody. Here's a couple videos I think you might enjoy, and happy crafting.